Okay. Hello and welcome to another episode of Tester Speak, and I'm your host Brajesh Deep. Well, today with me I have Josley Andrews. He is somebody whom I've been following for over a year. Uh, I mean, it's not a secret. He is one of the most active members of the Test Tribe community. He's very popular among the ranks, popular among people. He's always there at the forefront, driving initiatives, driving ideas, coming up with thoughts. Extremely energetic. And when I got to know about him, I started following his work, and I was like, "Wow, man, this is absolutely crazy," if I may use that word in the positive sense. Uh, so, yeah, without any further ado, let me welcome Josley. Welcome to the show, Josley.
Thank you, Brajesh. Thanks for inviting me to Tester Speak. I like to use your favorite pose. Thank you for having me here. I really love this part. Thank you so much. It's really special to be a part of this.
Well, you are one of the most incredible community guys I've come across. So before I get on with your journey, one question: what is the source of your energy?
My source of my energy, I would say, is the fear of missing out, basically. So I don't want to miss out on a lot of learning out there. I like to be a part of it. I think each one has a story to tell. I'm really fascinated by things like this, Tester Speak especially. I watched most of the episodes as well. I feel everyone has a story, and that's what keeps me going, and that's what keeps me motivated to keep going and learning. So yeah, I'm really excited about this fact, and that charges me all the time.
I was hoping that you would say boost is the secret of my energy.
I would
Anyways,
love to if I was Sachin Tendulkar.
anyways, I mean, this is awesome, man. No, I very honestly, your energy is extremely inspiring. I get charged up when I see you do those things personally. So just keep doing what you're doing. You are really good at it. Well,
Thank you so much.
okay. So why testing? How did you get started with it?
With testing,
Yeah.
okay, testing was by chance. So I'll just have a quick brief. Yeah, so I got associated with computers way back in my 11th standard. So I specialized in computer engineering, though I never thought I would keep a career in computer science or uh, computer engineering or even technology. So I started playing with the 8085 microprocessors during my college days, and that's when I, uh, hanged that 8085 processor. Made it beep continuously in a loop. That's when I realized, yes, I could actually break things, and I'm really good at it. Right, and then it progressed. From my college days to my engineering days, when I started to realize that yes, I had a particular specialty in programming, and that's how it went going. And uh, luckily, by grace of God, I was also campus recruited in Infosys uh, to my campus placement, where I joined in Mysore, and that's where I got an opportunity to be trained on .NET. Things didn't go well there because of the recession wave that went in, and yeah, there was no choice as such, where I had to get into testing, uh, and that's where I landed into it. I was privileged to be introduced to testing by Stack Software. It is one of our prominent uh, T. Ashok. He's one of our prominent testing names in the industry.
Yes.
His organization actually trained me. I realized that when I started getting involved in the community after 10 years, that it was actually T. Ashok who started my journey into testing. And uh, yeah, the testing journey started there. I got interested into testing, learning all the concepts over there. Yes, we didn't have fancy tools at that time. We just had Quick Test Professional. which was there at that time. Uh, so I got fascinated by that. I started exploring that. Not many may know I was trained under Tarun Lalwani. He is one
Oh,
of the
oh,
first ones to write a book on QTP. He was with me in Infosys, and he mentored me initially, and I feel really special uh, uh, to be trained under him. I mean, I learned a lot from him. He helped me a lot in my initial days. It was really challenging for someone as a fresher to even start with automation. The trend at that time was specifically you need to have some experience before you actually get into an opportunity to start with automation. And I was really lucky to get that in my first attempt. It was really very special. My job started as an automation test engineer, so it was really exciting because I had the knack for coding, and I really think I could use that knack with testing, and I knew that I could take this to the next level with my coding experience. So I was happy. I was happy that I had a mentor like Tarun initially when I started, and he helped me a lot. And that's where I became the face in Infosys in a short span of time. And then the journey continued, and it was always testing. Yes, there were various misconceptions. I started as an automation test engineer, and I was like, yes, this is what it is, right? Everyone's end goal should be test automation. I realized it quite late. It's not always automation. At times, as I progressed, in the ranks, there was a thing, right? Hey, you might have to do functional testing. Are you interested? I was very adamant at that time. Very focused. I just want to do test automation and nothing else. Uh, I'm not going to take any opportunity outside of this. So yeah, uh, that ideology changed down the lane. Some of my leaders, some of my managers talked about it, right? It's not about just automation. Yes, when you start, you just be very narrow minded, saying, hey, if you want to do good in testing, it is just test automation. But uh, there is huge scope. There is vast amount of knowledge out there. I'm happy I've introduced to it. I'm happy to call myself a true tester and not an automation tester. So really happy that my mind opened up, meeting a lot of testers in the industry and hearing them out, that it is not just automation that uh, one as a fresher should be fascinated about. There is a lot more one can do, in the testing space beyond automation. So yeah, that is in short how things progressed in my testing journey. Today, I definitely not a tester. I have, the knowledge that I've got from testing. I have progressed into being an engineering manager. So I do now manage developers as well as testers. But I can definitely say the position where I landed today was because of testing. It gave me an opportunity to get into depth, get into domain, and that is what is really special about testing. And so even though I am not actually directly involved in my job profile as a tester, I still am a tester by heart, and I still admire it because it made me what I am today. So yeah, there are a lot of testing learnings from testing. You can go anywhere, and that makes me really proud and happy that I started as a tester.
awesome. I think that's one incredible journey. And when I think of when you said that, you were uh, you got an opportunity to get trained or mentored by Tarun Lalwani, it gave me goosebumps because he's such a wonderful guy. Okay, I have met him a couple of times. He's such a wonderful guy, and to have him as your mentor, it's like, wow, man, it's phenomenal. So I understand why that love for probably love for QTP turned into love for automation, and then
Right.
you had that thought process that, oh,
Right.
testing is all about automation. I can see where that thought process is coming from, though I know that Tarun of course doesn't believe that testing is
Right.
all about automation. He is a guru in QTP, of course, and of course a lot of other things that he does. Now, that's very interesting, and there are two things. Something about being in the position that you are currently. We'll come to that aspect later, but I want to understand from you today when I look at these freshers. You know, they first start thinking about having a career in development, not so much in testing. If you go to colleges and talk to people, talk to final year engineering students, and if you ask them, so once you graduate, what are you looking at? So most of them would say development. Okay, I haven't found people saying testing. In fact, I have even heard in colleges among the students saying, testing, who does that? Like that. So, what is the advice? Because you've been through that journey yourself. You started off as an automation engineer, later on had the realization that testing is much more than automation. So, what advice would you give
Right.
to people who are starting their journey, their career journey?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, there is an interesting thing like of my journey there as well. So I had all the same thoughts, how testing will go. So incidentally, we had this subject software testing in college, and I happened to top it, but it never impressed me. Like, yeah, I got the highest in software testing. I would rather have loved to, top something like mathematics or, something else of that sort. But it was software testing, and I didn't realize it after I, actually get into testing. Hey, this was something I was meant for. So I started. I got trained in .NET. If you ask me, when I started as with Infosys, I was trained in .NET. I aggressively started loving it as well. I was set my mind for it. The recession wave stuck, and yes, then we got trained in testing, and uh, it was like, hey, what am I going to do now, right? So I did do a bit of a research in terms of, okay, I need to now position myself as an automation test engineer because I love coding, and I thought, yes, this is going to be interesting. If you have love for coding, why not use that with test automation? And that's where uh, I actually started. But I think, yes, with this profession of testing, it is very much worthwhile. I really relate it really well now. When people used to say, testers as well as developers are equally, same. They when it comes to even earnings, we have this quote, testers can earn more than developers. I think I'm a living example. I have been with that notion that uh, you cannot be a tester and get that respect as a developer. I definitely got it being into testing, right? So there is a lot of opportunity, right? And once you start networking, once you start learning about testing, you will realize how important it is in this field, and it is really unique in terms of what all areas we have in the testing space. It's performance, we have automation, we have exploratory testing, lots to explore in this field, and it's not restricted to just functional testing. We have other specialities as well, security testing. You could be an hacker, white hat hacker as well. There are various good names in the industries you can follow. So testing has a lot to cover. You need a different set of skill sets when it comes to testing. It's not an easy job, and this craft is really special. So that's what an advice I'll give to freshers is more about thinking of testing as a really good profession to enter into, uh, and be motivated in it. Yeah, so that's where is the advice that I would like to give freshers when it comes to entering into testing. Of course, there are uh, other good advices I would like to give when it comes to even adopting or specializing in certain fields. Specifically, if you talk about me in terms of uh, test automation, like how I started, right? So it was more about exploring and being curious about how frameworks are built, right? So uh, I saw frameworks, right? And now, yeah, it's like an overhyped thing. Like framework building is uh, a huge thing. right? But when I initially started my career, right, there were very few frameworks which are built, uh, and I had that curiosity. Hey, I'm using some framework. I'm just writing certain scripts, and it's getting done. But then I realized, hey, who is building this framework, and what's this all about, right? So I got curious. I started to build my own frameworks. I tried to replicate it at first to see, okay, let me replicate what's actually happening, and that's when I got to learn more about frameworks. And what I realized, over the period of time, I've seen frameworks which were as good as using Excel's. Then it went on to converting that Excel into a UI, and now it has progressed exceptionally well in areas of AI, ML. But the core of frameworks always remain the same, right? It is not something which is magic, right? It was always about having that master script, having that object repository, having a test data set, and then showcasing your results. Now, how you revolve around this is where all frameworks come into picture.
Right.
uh, I have worked in organizations where each of them have their own specific names of frameworks,
Right.
but the core concept always remains the same. So it is not that difficult entering even into the space of automation, for that matter. The concepts of building something always remains the same, and that's how you improvise. So it's all very easy. I think testing as a profession is a really good profession, and I would advise any fresher stepping here to not get deviated, right? By other professions if you really love it. So I'll give an interesting story, like uh, where that trigger point happened for me. So I started training in .NET, right, with Infosys, and we had this assignment. We had to build a website in 3 days, right? So we built this website, and the inspectors came for evaluation, and he, did so many tests. It made our 3 day effort look like waste. The He did all of these things like boundary value analysis. He entered like long letters, and he just smashed the application in and out. I was like, hey, did we actually learn coding? And that's where actually testing impressed me. Like, hey, oh, this looks to be interesting. So that's where that energy came in. That trigger point happened for me, like the love for that particular job of a tester. That's where it happened. I've been also started as a developer, like initially during the recession, when we didn't have any work. I did internal projects within my organization. I built websites, and there were testers, actually testing this particular websites.
Right.
And the way that they were doing it, I mean, that thing really fascinated me. And my opinion of testing has never changed. It is a fabulous job. It is, it's a really jolly job. And I just learned recently, testing is about testing the ignorance of a person, building a product, right? So this particular statement really has struck me as well. So I would advise, it's a great profession, and there is a lot more. I am still learning. I enjoy it, and yeah, you have it for you. Yeah.
Well, that is very interesting and very inspiring, and you've covered not only the freshers but others as well. Now, we get this quite often these days that I have 6 or 7 years of experience in, or maybe even 10, and I have been doing manual testing for all these years, and now I kind of find myself lost because companies are asking for automation. Every job description has automation. You go to an interview, there are barely any questions on testing. It's all about automation. I find it really scary. So, what tips would Josley give to someone who's looking to get on board the automation journey?
Right. So 6 years down the lane, you're into functional testing or manual testing, it's really special. I would say you have the cores with you, you have the basics with you. I think the foundation of testing is always the base, the core, right? And you shouldn't be disappointed, having that base and core with you. And starting with automation is not something difficult, right? Uh, so I'll just give you a recent example. I am out of touch of automation for a long time. As I told you, I'm into engineering. When this contest came of Selenium, he was like, hey, okay, let me get back to square one and let's see what I can do about it. Right. So everything I tried there was absolutely new. I, did coding using Python because that was something I didn't know. And then I tried APM because I never got an opportunity to work on mobile. So I thought, okay, hey, let me try to have a twist of APM into it. Uh, and then I was also fascinated by visual testing, and I thought, okay, let's also add that flavor there, and let's challenge ourselves, right? So it's all about challenging. Resources are definitely there, right? There's no shying away from resources out there. We have good training videos. There are good YouTube videos by a lot of good trainers, Naveen, Mukesh, Raghav, as well. Uh, Excellent videos, and you get anything and everything that you want to master on, right? And you shouldn't shy on investing as well, right? There are a lot of good Udemy courses. They might be paid, but then definitely you can get the return on investment, right? You will be recognized, right? So just the thing, being a part of this competition, I was able to learn, number one. I was recognized, number two, and I also got a chance to be a speaker. So your effort is never going to be waste. Now, don't study automation just because you want to get a job, right? Study automation if you're interested about it, right? It is not necessary that a career in automation is something the peakmost area. Even when you're 6 or 7 years, you can still have a career being a very good functional tester. And trust me, there is huge place over there to succeed. All right. There are a lot of diversions out there as well. So you don't really have to be an automation engineer to be successful. I have heard a lot of speakers, they say, hey, I don't know automation, so what? Right. But they are there, they are they are still called experts. It's not because they know automation. It's because they are good in their field. You could be a good exploratory tester as well, right? So it's not, don't strive for it just because the industry is asking for it.
Right.
Try to prove value in what you hold. That is really important. So there is no harm being an exploratory tester, I must say. And I take it, of course, I started my career as an automation test engineer, but I still think it is not the end game after all, right? If you have that interest, go for it. But if you still think you're not good for it, don't do it. I'll give an example. Even my sister, she didn't like coding, so she just didn't do it, right? So the fab, even when we started, or when I wanted to take my admission into engineering as well, there was this to fame, electronics and telecommunication, the topmost uh, division out there, the best one. If you are a topper in your college, I incidentally happened to score really well, and I did get an opportunity to be in that electronics and telecommunication. But that's all fab, right? That's all fab. It's not what interests you, so go with your interest. So I took computer science because I felt, hey, this is the thing which I love to do. May not be the trend out there going there, and luckily I had everything related to computer science all the way along. So it is, follow your passion. That's important. Don't try to just emulate someone, right? Just because, okay, they are successful, don't try to emulate. Again, when it comes to I, creating automation videos, or blogging about automation, hey, that's not necessary at all. You can blog about general testing concepts, uh, and that still gives you value, right? And you can blog about that, and you can show that in your resumes. That will add more value in terms of, hey, you're an expert at your field. Of course, using automation is also good. uh, learning about this is also good, but that can come gradually. If you have the thirst for knowledge, if you have the thirst to explore, taking up anything is good. Any language, adopting any language. I just learned Python just in a matter of a week or two. So if you have the thirst for it, you can do it. Right? The technology will start changing, the trends will start changing. Don't go by trends, go by your interest. That's where we'll take you, and have that clear demarcation of what value you can add. So uh, find what strengths you are, find what you have, and find what motivates you. And that's when you will feel the joy of getting to work. uh, Early morning you get into work, hey, okay, I cracked an interview, I did automation, but hey, I don't like it. It does not really then make that trend. You got a title of an automation engineer, you are happy about it. Maybe you might have got a, a good company altogether with a good name, but you're not happy with that job. uh, it doesn't make any sense, right? You may not be able to go beyond. So I say yes, it is good to learn about it if you're interested in it. Of course, we have a lot of mentors, we have a lot of resources. We have the Test Automation University. They have exhaustive paths of where you can learn about automation, be
Yeah,
it anything.
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
right? So learnings is out there. There is abundance of knowledge. There is no to knowledge out there. It's just about whether it interests you. If it interests you, go for it. There are various professions. Even if you're not interested in coding, for that matter, you can diverse to being a Scrum Master. You can diverse to being a product manager. Uh, so there is a lot of opening there. You can diverse to be a business analyst. So there are various options. So think about what suits you the best, and then plan how you want to go ahead down the lane in your career. So automation again is not the end of testing, or it's not the prime goal one should look for testing. So yeah, this is what I would uh, give.
Well, thank you so much for that great advice. Now, I want to add something to what you just said, Jocelyn.
Yep.
I want, and I also want to address the audience with that. Well, you heard that, right? You all heard what Jocelyn just said. It is, it is so heartwarming to hear somebody who just loves coding and who's just, would love to do anything. He is putting so much of stress on on learning testing. And he said, you said, Josley, that testing is not just about automation. And I want people in general, the community, all testers to understand what Josley has just said. It is being said by a lot of gurus, a lot of experts, time and again. However, the trend in the industry somehow still remains, oh, you know what? Test automation. You know what? Let's bring that magic wand, wave it once, and all your problems are gone. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. And you're absolutely right, Josley, when you put that emphasis on being able to discover what you love and then try and do that rather than trying to do something just because the market demands. So that's a very good point, Jocelyn. Now, having said that, I want to take it a little further. Now, automation, we all know, is people say it's the need of the hour. People say, oh, it's very important, everything. So, how about learning tools? I mean, which tools should I learn? Obviously the next question. Is Selenium the ultimate answer, or is there more that I can do?
Right. So yeah, this is also a recent quote. I was hearing uh, Michael about it, and what he mentioned. Like we as testers are very fascinated by the word automation and programming, and we are moving there as well. So he quoted one of Jerry Weinberg's quotes. Don't look for what is good and bad. Look what fits and does not fit you, right?
Mhm.
It is really very important to get this concept really very clear when you're deciding uh, what tools you want to select. Uh, Decide what fits you. Don't look at what is good or bad and what the industry is talking about, right? When you're testing out tools out there. Now, choosing tools uh, depends on what you actually aspire to do, or what is the context, or what sort of value you want to get out of your testing. This is really very important, right? What value is are you looking out of your automation to do, right? If you have the goal very clear, the tools, you will be automatically able to decide what tools you need to use. Now, there are various tools out there. You need to decide in terms of the dynamics, even of your team or of yourself, what skill set you possess. Now, there are certain tools which do not support some languages, right? You may be an expert in X language, but you may realize that the tool does not support that language, or the tool does not support the framework that you're using, right? So it is not necessary that you have to uh, do certain things to use that tool. uh, I would recommend everyone to listen to Rahul Verma's talk, the Jugadu tester. It's a
Yeah.
very popular thing, like a video which I have watched, and uh, it's really interesting. We tend to change our code to work on a particular tool just because the industry demands it, or because our organization tells, hey, this is the only option that you have, right? So try to convince your management about tools. This is really very important, and as testers, this is really very important. You should have that convincing power, and I believe all of us have that inbuilt as testers, and need to have that as testers. Convince the leadership, convince the management that, hey, this is what works for us, right? It may not be that we have to always follow a particular trend. Of course,
Right.
tools are there, innovations come happening, some tools are spectacular, we may want to use them. Very good. Do your POCs, try it out, find and judge whether it fits you or not. Don't go by that jigadu thing, like just twist it around. If you can eat it directly, don't go like backside and tail it out. So think of it in that sense. If it should be really very straightforward. It should help you rather than take your time. Think about ROI. What will you get when you invest into building that and using that tool? We've spent hours, days, even months to build a particular script, and then we realize, hey, this is of no use anymore, right? So that is the big problem. Our tool selection needs to be really very precise. How we are selecting tools, what we want to use it for. Do not do jugadu testing or scripting. uh, that's now how it works, right? Make sure you are very, and don't follow the trend, and be ready to challenge when it comes to tool selections.
Right.
Yes, there are wonderful tools in the market. Uh, ai ai tools, codeless tools are there in the market. See and see the power that it brings you, and what skill set you have to use those tools. That is really very important when it comes to tool selection. So I have and one thing about tools, if you have the basics right, you can use any tool.
Right.
So I started my career with Infosys with QTP. The trend started going. Then I had to work on Test Complete. Then the era of open source came into such some kind of these license tools were too expensive for certain organizations. We went into Selenium, a robot framework in Python,
Yeah.
and now it's evolving to codeless automation tools. So this keeps evolving, but then you need to understand what skill sets your team has and how you can adopt to those tools. So I would say, don't twist your scripts just to work on a particular tool. I would say, if it is, uh, it's still okay that you keep it simple and you use tools even for a patch of the activity, maybe generating data or evaluating certain things. Don't just leverage and just hook it into something just because you think, okay, that is good, right? So think
Yeah.
on those lines, and that's how there are even tools which give you a fancy report. If your leadership or if your management likes to have a report better, have a tool which just gives that report in a fancy fashion. You don't need to have and retrofit the entire thing just because that report of that particular tool is fancy, right? You can use that component separately as well. We have TSS style sheets. I did
Yeah.
use that earlier on because I'll give you my experience. My manager was always fascinated about reports, what automation used to generate, and way back then we just used to have Excel. Test case name, pass fail, and that's it. And then we have to sum it up, and then later on we used to use TSS style sheets to make it look really very fancy, and show that in an HTML format. So all of that has evolved definitely, but yeah, it's not necessary that you have to do certain things to fit. So tool selections is about see what best fits you and does not fit you, right? So yeah, that would be
Excellent. I think that is one of the most comprehensive answers that somebody has given me. And in fact, as you were talking about, people trying to modify their scripts to run for a particular tool, I was just thinking of a situation we have at home, okay, where we think, okay, a screw should do the job instead of a nail, but all we have is a hammer.
right.
So what we do is, instead of thinking of an alternate solution, saying, okay, let me figure out how I can, maybe get a drill so that the screw
Right.
goes in, and maybe then use a screwdriver to push it in. We say, oh, take the hammer and just bang it in, because that's the tool that I have. So I customize that. Even for a screw, I use a hammer, which is the weirdest combination that I can think of. And you're absolutely right about the fact that, a lot of times this happens. Uh, Beautifully explained. Thank you so much for that one. Also, I want to thank you for bringing up Rahul's talk in this, and I'm going to put a um, you know link to that video in the description of the current video, which when it goes online, because that is a very interesting talk, and he's
Right.
explained it so wonderfully through that talk. And I love the title, the Jugadu tester. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, Rahul, of course, great guy. He's done. He did a talk at Agile Testing Days, and he did not use the word testing. All he used was tasting, and yet it was all relevant to testing.
Right.
So he is awesome. Okay.
Right.
Now, we've spoken about automation. I think people will start saying, this talk is only about automation. Now I want to talk about something else that you are really, really good at, and something that has inspired a lot of us. And that is your um, belief in community building. And that is a skill that you have. I mean, I don't think there has been a single week. I mean, I've come to know about you in late 2019, I would say. Yeah, somewhere around that time. After that, there hasn't been a single week where I've not seen Josly talk about something in the community for the community. So, what is the secret?
Right. So it all started like 3 years back when I was introduced to the concept of community. Uh, I never knew the power of it. It The mindset triggered for me, to be part of community is when I was taking an interview. Right, it was for an ETL tester. Right, and I was taking this interview, and yeah, it was about ETL testing. So I did ask him questions about ETL. And as good as I'm a really strict at taking interviews. So I try to see, uh, all aspects. We always tend to see, okay, let's try to give a stress interview and see what other areas that particular person knows about. So I tried asking him a lot of things in testing, in test automation, in functional aspects, in database testing, in other areas as well, which are not ETL specific, right? And I was really impressed. He was able to touch those areas, and I was stunned. I was like, uh, oh. this is awesome. Like, are there testers like this who know so much? I mean, even though that's not their area of expertise, that's amazing, right? And then,
There
yeah,
are there is one on the screen right in front of me. So
right. So, so that was a game changer for me. Unfortunately, he couldn't make through because there were other qualities we were looking at. But yeah, he made it a point to follow me on LinkedIn, uh, and I felt this gesture really very good. You know, he asked for feedback, like, "Hey, I know I'm not selected, but what do you think I can go and improve on?" I did give him certain tips, and I advised to do that. You know, it was a really nice gesture. uh, Even though you're not selected, it's always a step of how you can improve better for the next one. So reach out to the person taking interviews, or you know of your hiring personnel, ask them for feedback. That's how you improve. It's not the end of the game, right? So I started following him on LinkedIn, and this is how it turned out. And then all of a sudden I found his photo for uh, a hackathon which the test tribe had conducted in Bangalore, and he was there in that photo, saying, "Hey, there is a community like this. Oh, nice. Let me see what it is all about." And that's where the idea triggered, and I tried to explore this community, the test tribe, and I went into starting there, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, hey, there was Mahesh, and he said, "Hey, Josly, can you present on a topic on test automation?" Saying, "Hey, I'm just a week in this community, and uh, this is a solid opportunity. Like, okay, I'll do it." It was my first community talk, incidentally, which I did, and I went to that. Obviously, I am not actually in the city, exactly in the center of the city in Mumbai. I take around 1.5 hours to 2 hours to travel to Mumbai, and I'm a very lazy person. So on a Saturday, if you ask me to travel 2 hours, I wouldn't do that. That was my mindset, right? Because I couldn't. We in the non-pandemic days, we had this meetups, and I would say, "Hey, Saturday, family time, me time. I'm not going for this meetup whatsoever." And uh, I missed one or two meetups, and then okay, I was a speaker, so I had to go. I went there, and uh, I presented, but I heard there was another speaker on security testing as well, and that's where I got that motivation. Hey, this is an area which I don't know, and actually I'm learning a lot of good things. That's when the I got connected to the community. I felt it is really very powerful. I subsequently attended a lot of conferences after that. In fact, the first conference I presented was again as a speaker itself. I did my first talk in 2018, the time that I joined this committee for Clavent, for TestCon Mumbai. So that was my first talk, and the charge of community has grown from that, and I've learned a lot from each and everyone in the community, right? That's what charges me, specifically in terms of knowledge areas. I got to meet excellent leaders. I never imagined to meet James face to face. I never imagined to meet Pradeep face to face. I never imagined talking to Michael face to face. This has all happened, and uh, you know in a span of very less time, the community has made me interact with them, has given me an opportunity to talk to them. So yeah, it's my way, I feel, of giving back, right? I missed a few being a part of the community in my initial days. I was more towards that silo, that I am doing well in my organization. So that's about it. I feel people need to move out of that concept, jump out of the well, see what's out there. This is a beautiful uh, space out there. Not many would even watch this video, because yes, there are so many testers in India, but yes, we have to outreach them. So if you're even able to aspire 5 people that you don't know, that would be a good help to the community, right? So
that
reach
just
there out.
that just one,
Yeah,
if you
even
have
one is
just one, that
right.
would be a huge achievement.
Right. We have so many testers, thousands of testers. In fact, I was working with Infosys. We were like 20,000 just in Pune. right? That's a vast number, right? And I feel, seeing the communities, we are small, not that big, but there are a lot of testers out there. They need to really know what value a community brings, and that what charges me, right? So keep inspiring. If you are inspired, please give back and try to inspire another tester to get into the community space. A lot of wonderful communities. I have been with the test chat as well. I think they're doing a really wonderful job. Any conference, any event, yes, there is the backing of the test chat. That is one beautiful thing I like about test chat. They are there to support. They are like a charging light for any community, and I feel it's like a connection. Uh, Joining communities together, and I am really inspired by what British the test chat is doing, and I like to thank all the enablers as well. It's really excellent. I have been following all of them: Adabio, Sachin, Fez. Excellent, excellent. Selfless commitment to join communities together. And yes, that what's motivated me, gives me the charge. Give back, uh, and what the community has given to you, and that what charges me. And why weekends that you see me doing a lot of things is because I have made it very much clear that I will dedicate my 5 days to my org and be committed to it. And the weekends are my time, right? We have 48 hours, right? 48 hours is too huge, right? Uh, you can do anything you like in those 48 hours, right? Even if you spend 2 hours or 4 hours for learning, that is more than enough, right? Uh, it will change you completely. It changed me. In fact, I have other plans, after this interview as well, to go and explore something which I'm curious about, right? So you get charged, if you start to do that thing again, like continuously. I read this book by Raj as well. He says if you do certain things for a particular period of time, you start to do it, and you don't get bored about it. You just get motivated for it, right? You keep doing it for like 10 to 15 days, it becomes a pattern, right? And I enjoy doing it. It's not that you have to excuse on your family time. You have to set that right. But yes, there is like 48 hours. Even if you give like 8 hours for your family, you still have the remaining hours there, where you can invest. Not even saying to invest all the hours, maybe just 2 hours. uh, that's more than enough. I mean, that's huge, if you calculate what you can bring out in a 1 year time span, right? So invest yourself, use your weekends wisely. I would say even if you spend 2 hours, you're going to learn something new, and spread that word, right? What you learn, don't keep it to yourself. I'm a big promoter of uh, sharing knowledge. Yes, you may not be an expert, but don't shy away from sharing knowledge. Even if you share one bit, it might influence one person, right? There could be one person somewhere who may not know about it. So don't worry, don't fear about sharing knowledge, right? Maybe I wrote a blog, I just got few likes, and that's still fine, right? It's okay, right? And I attempted one for Synapse, right, where I wrote this article, and it was really accepted very well by all of everyone, right? So you will get there, right? It was a very plain and a simple article, but if even if you're able to charge a few people by reading that, go for it. Don't keep it to yourself. And why I say to share knowledge, you're creating your brand, right? Uh, you're putting that effort. But then if you're keeping it to yourself, no one will know about you, right? Maybe I would say I'm here speaking at Tester Speak because of that small activity that I'm sharing, and Bridges noticed about it, right? That every week something or the other is coming around from my side, right? And why is that doing? Why am I doing that, right? I'm just sharing it. Someone may benefit it. I have met a lot of testers who still find value. Yes, there may not be experts who might like it, but there could be someone, right? Someone who's even starting into testing. Each of us is maybe 6 years experience or 7 year experience. You still have some knowledge where you can inspire other testers out there, right? I have seen exceptional mind maps floating out right now on LinkedIn, right? They do inspire. They teach something very specific. It's very basic, but I think uh, there is something to learn from them. right? There are people who make notes whenever they hear a talk. It inspires, right? Some of us may not be able to attend talks, but at least if you hear those keywords, if you may read those notes, you are still able to get more out of it. So whenever you attend certain conferences, attend certain talks, make notes of it, share it across. You are spending your valuable time hearing to great speakers, share their word across, right? uh, that will help you, right? Be selfless to share knowledge, right? uh, and don't share it with an intention that you want to be famous or something. Share it with the intention that you want to give back, right? So all of these things will come together. I have also been very much talking to a lot of testers. They are very much uh, concentrating, when they make this move on their salary, right? What will I get? Should how much increment should I ask? I'm getting really very less. Should it be 1x, 2x, 3x, 1.5x, whatever? Right? So all of these theories are all floating in the market when it comes to what should be my next salary, or what should I ask when it comes to my salary negotiation. I would say spend the initial time for you on learning, and then you can capitalize on it. All of these will come back to you definitely at some stage. Don't worry about compensation when you start your career, right? uh, Worry about learning, worry about getting knowledge, and that's the thirst that you should have, because all of this 100% guaranteed will cultivate back at some stage, right? So look into that, and be charged about that. And that's my energy of helping the community, and I will continue to do it, uh, and hope to add value at least to one tester.
This is again phenomenal to what you said about communities, and I am really thankful for the shout out. You were very kind. We are just trying to do the things as best as we can. You spoke about, you know, making a difference. You spoke about learning something and then sharing it on, bringing it forward to the uh, other people in the community. And the test chat has, the underlying force, or the tagline, or not the tagline exactly, but the motivation comes from Dr. Stephen Covey's book. I know it's there on the LinkedIn page and on our YouTube page and everywhere, but I don't think people read it. But since you brought it up, let me just share it. So, Dr. Stephen Covey has written a very famous book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Yes, we know about the seven habits, but he also wrote a book called The Eighth Habit, which is more like a sequel to that book. And what the eighth habit is find your voice and help others find their voice. So effective leaders always do that. And when we saw this opportunity that, okay, somehow in the testing industry, people were listening to us, whether it was, Faiz or Sachin or Adibayo or me, when people were listening to us, we said, okay, why not take the next step and help people find their voice? And that's when the test chat happened. And you're absolutely right. We believe that although the name is different, the branding is different, the philosophy is very much the same, whether it is the test tribe or the test chat. It is to enable people, and it is to put forth, ideas. And that's why we try to come up with unique contests, and what you get out of that contest is also unique. Yes, of course, there's a prize money and a certificate or something, but we also try to give something more. So if there is an opportunity of speaking at a particular event, for example, or you could be a part of, are you there with me, Jocelyn? Still?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you
Okay,
hear
I
me?
thought your screen sort of froze, so I was.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah, so when we see these things happening, when conferences come up, and we have this opportunity to speak, so it's like, okay, uh, I know I have spoken at a few conferences, which has been a wonderful experience. Now it's time that the next generation or the next league of speakers comes out and shares their knowledge. And that's why, and that's how we will help people in bringing out their voice. Okay. And that all relates to, you know, the quote that I spoke about from Dr. Stephen Covey's book. So that is the underlying philosophy that we have. We are trying our best to help testers find their voice. And I am pretty sure if people listen to what you said as a response to my previous question, I think they should be able to figure out that what is in it for me. Because the obvious question is when when you ask somebody, hey, there is this event happening or a, a webinar happening. Uh, Why don't you join? So you will see that a lot of people, out of their enthusiasm, register because registration is the easiest thing to do.
All right.
You know, it's oh, it's free. Let me just do it. But on the day of the event, they don't turn up.
Right.
And if you ask them why didn't you turn up, oh, there will be a recording, right? So this is not how you network with people. This is not how you learn. If you watch it live, if you have that interaction, you will feel the vibe, you will feel the energy, you will be able to ask questions to the speaker live at that very moment. So the
Right.
speaker also comes to know that, okay, there is this person who is curious. So the next time you have a question and you reach out to the speaker, he or she will be very, very happy to help you. I mean,
Exactly.
this is a very fundamental thing. And if you lose out on that opportunity, if you wait for the recording, all you get is the recording. You don't get your questions answered.
Right.
I mean, well, anyways, I hope that we see some trends
Right. I
changing.
I like to say one analogy. I think
Yeah,
Sachin said in his recordings for Tech Chat.
yeah,
They are like Jugnu, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
fireflies, and that hit me really nicely with what Tech Chat is doing. So excellent analogy of that Jugnu. So I mean, I didn't get to say it to him, but Tech Chat is really like a Jugnu, like a firefly. Igniting. So good kudos on that.
yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you once again. Well, so now having spoken about automation, having spoken about communities, I want to speak to you about something, and I said this that I'll ask you about it later. So you have progressed from being a tester to now being an engineering manager. There was a discussion that was happening. I think there is a thread which is probably still on whether the engineering, whether as a team you would want a technical manager or a people manager. I don't know if you've seen that thread in the test
Yes. Yeah, I
group.
was hearing the videos as well, the chat, the discussion.
Yeah. So what's your perspective on that?
Should a manager be technical?
Yeah.
Right. So actually depends, right? I feel there are various core values a manager should have apart from being technical. It's about communication skills. It's about how you collaborate with your stakeholders. It's also having empathy to your team. It's really important. You have that responsibility of looking at the growth of your team, right? Now, just having someone to be technical or having someone to be technical is good, but it is not just the thing that a manager needs to have. There is a lot of other things. So if you talk about me, I'm coming from a testing background and now managing uh, developers who are working on .NET, and the latest technology on the cloud is on AWS, right? But it is good to be technically sound, but it is not the end of it to be a good manager, right? There are various aspects. How you connect with your team, that is very important, in terms of the empathy that you have to them, right? You are responsible for their growth. So being a manager at times we feel is an easy job, and we do not respect managers who are not technically sound, but there is a lot more that they do, and we fail to see that picture.
Right.
Why? Because we are working at the ground level, right? So we always have this perspective. I have been to this, right? We always have that tendency. Hey, what is my manager doing?
He
He
does
means
not.
not. Yeah, he does not help me. He does not assist me technically. There is a lot more. Of course, having that technical edge gives you uh, that edge. Managers, if technical, really good. If you're talking about QA managers, so we have managers differently in different probably domains. So if you're talking in the concept of QA manager, yes, if he's technically sound, is good, right? But that is not the end game. We have seen, or I have come across a lot of managers, or maybe star performers who are not good managers, but they are good individual contributors. So respect this concept, right? You can still be an individual contributor and you can still be good, right? You don't have to convert into a manager if you do not have that liking, right? So respect individual contributors. This is a trend which is a problem I see specifically in the Indian geography,
Yeah.
right? That our end goal is to become a manager, and then we feel good about it because we have this title. uh, I have worked with
Right.
developers.
And I'll tell you where this comes from. It's like it comes from the social behavior. Okay, if I may put it nicely, you would often see, oh, how much experience do you have? It's 15 years. And what's your job title? I'm a senior engineer. Oh, you're still not a manager? That would be the next question. Okay. And this happens in the society. So if you are in your apartment complex, or you're talking to a friend circle, maybe you're within your family, okay, your cousins or somebody, they would also ask you a question like that. So I'm not surprised that everybody finds that manager title to be really, really something that they want to go for. So I completely agree with what you're saying.
Right. So yeah, that is how it is. Like I have worked with leads, tech leads specifically, almost having 20, 25 plus years of experience, and they really the charisma that they carry. They are not really bothered about if a reporting manager is of a lesser experience, because it's not their forte, and it's okay for them, right? uh, so it's fine. I had seen a very old, when I started my career, he was a 45-year-old developer, and I was incidentally a tester at that time, and he was in my team. So I just happened to ask him, like, what gives you that energy when it comes to still continuing to be a developer? He says, I enjoy it, and this is what I'm made for, right? So I'll still continue to do that, and being in this, I'm paid for it, right? So I don't mind what my position is, as long as I'm the company is valuing my contribution and I'm getting equally paid for it. So that is a good thought. Yes, I've not seen that in the Indian industry, but it's definitely out there. There are people who still do not want to be managers, and they don't shy about it, right? So that is one good thing, what I think about when it comes to uh, of this position. Now, managers, yes, if they are technically sound, very good. They will be able to advise you and assist you technically as well. Gives them a better connect with the team. That is what they want, right? But yes, there are various other qualities: being empathetic, being responsible for a team's, going up, uh, responsible for their growth, right? So all of these things really matter uh, when it comes to the qualities of a manager, right? So think on those lines. There is a very good book. I believe it is 97 Skills of an Engineering Manager. You will see that there is nothing which it talks about being technical. You are also responsible of how you are managing or giving leaves to your employees,
Right.
approving those leaves. It is not an easy task.
Yeah.
You need to balance out your commitments to stakeholders. You need to picture out, okay, this is going to be my target date, and how you're going to hit it. So lot of things comes into dynamics of being a manager, and it's a different skill set altogether. Of course, if you're up the ranks and you have that liking, well and good. Being technical and giving that support to your team is very good, right? So you can talk about me, right? So I am an engineering manager now, and so I was very novice about the cloud technology, so I put in some effort to study about the cloud, and get certified about it. So I'm in a better position to deal with my team members, right? In terms of being technically associated with them, uh, I didn't have an head and tail of how a UI is built using React, right? React is one of the UI technologies, uh, very booming now when it comes to building UI. So I didn't have that. So it's still okay if you don't have it, but then go and learn about it so that you are able to lead them, right? So the concept of agile, if you, I think Brijesh can relate. It's about creating a self-sustained team who
Right.
is able to manage themselves, right? And that's what every manager should strive. You have to form a dream team where your team is able to take decisions by themselves, right? And such kind of decisions, when it comes to technically being sound, you are a leader in yourself, right? And give that projection that yes, you're able to take that decision, and that's when you will start to respect your manager. And one more thing I would advise, build that connection with your manager or your boss or your leader, right? That
Right.
is really very important, because they are going to take you to the next step, right? You have to build that trust. You should have that connect with your manager, because they will take you to the next level. It is no one else in the organization who will fight for you, right? So have that connect. Be sure you're setting your expectations right? Instead of cribbing, my manager is not doing this thing, ask him, right? What he expects of you, right? Build
Right.
that connect. If you build that trust, nothing can take you behind, and definitely they are the one who will take you up in the organization. So you have to respect that, and they are the ones who have that power to fight for you, right? So instead of cribbing about my manager is not technically sound or whatever, understand what value you can get out of your manager, right? So that will help you, right? So this is my suggestion. Of course, there may be good managers, there may be bad managers. Some of them do micromanage, some of them don't. I have also dealt with that aspect, right? At times, so you you may not get the perfect manager, because there is this misfitment, right? A person may not be uh, asked, may not be a good manager, but asked to manage, and that's where the misfitment comes in, right? And then it cascades out. It's like a ripple effect, right?
Right.
if
Correct.
if if the person there is not satisfied with what he's doing, or is not happy, or is not aware of what he is expected, then it creates that ripple effect. So uh, yes, take decisions wisely. Your ultimate step should not be to be an engineering manager, and so that you can at least help others under you to not get frustrated. So if you have a liking, please go for it. But yes, make that wise choice, whether you really have that talent to get into management, or whether you still are going to be equally happy being that individual contributor. I have seen specialists in this field. We have testing consultants who earn much more than managers.
Yeah.
We have specialist white hat hackers who earn more. We have entrepreneurs who have started their own companies. So that's not the end. You can change the
I know
landscape.
of I know of a UI tester,
Ah,
an
yes.
expert UI tester.
Okay.
All she does is UI testing,
Oh,
and
right.
she's a specialist. She's a specialist UI tester,
Mhm.
and she makes a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. I mean, again, you've said everything so with so much emphasis. I think that uh, thought that we have in our minds that okay, I want to become a manager. If your goal is becoming a manager, then prepare for it. Okay, don't just look for a promotion and then take that designation. If you are a manager, you should be able to do justice with that role. That's most important. And if you don't want to be a manager, don't be one. It's as simple as that. But there is a lot that you can do. Well, that said, we've been talking for quite some time. So I thought, and we've had more or less a serious discussion on a lot of topics. I
Right.
want to take this discussion to a slightly lighter side and, and help people discover the light side of Josly. So we'll have a quick rapid fire, 5 questions. No,
Sure.
not even 5 questions, some questions. Okay, but 5 minutes. And in case of multiple choices, you will have to explain why. Okay. So, were you born and brought up in Mumbai or
Uh,
suburbs?
yeah, I was born and brought up in Mumbai, but I spent my childhood in the Gulf, in Doha, Qatar. So I did my schooling from first to 10th over there. So yes, born and brought up in Mumbai, India, but yeah, I did majority of my schooling in the Gulf. So
So, so your schooling in Gulf and then life in Mumbai. Which one is better?
uh, yes, there is few things here. When it comes to schooling in Gulf, I'm happy that I did it. Why? Because I was a very lazy person when I was in Mumbai. It was like my home. I was very reluctant as a kid to even go to school. I used to make up reasons, and it was easy to fool my mom around it. When I went there, one good thing happened was I was able to converse in English, right, and build up my speaking skills and communication skills. I'm really thankful that I had been there, so that at least I am comfortable in conversing in English, which possibly would have been a little bit uh, on a lower side here. I would say that's where I feel really happy that I got school there. Luckily, yes, it's all about what friends you make, right? And I emphasize on that is because when you are small, which what the company that you are in defines what you will do in the future. Luckily, yes, I was not a bright student when I started. In fact, I used to just scrape through my education, but I had really good company. I was lucky. I was, maybe you can say, like the fifth last in my class, but my friends were the top three in the class. So I'm really happy for that. Uh, they were there to support me in my education journey, and incidentally, and it was a dream come true. We were the four musketeers at the end of our 10th when we were the top four. So that was a game changer for me. So education wise, I would respect that I was abroad, and I'm thankful I met a lot of people. I was able to interact with a language I was not comfortable in, right? Uh, and of course, I made sure that I am in touch with my mother tongue. Many were really surprised. So my mother tongue is Marathi. I don't know if
Yeah.
most of you will know it, but it is Marathi. Um, so my mom made sure, she was a teacher when she was over here, so she made sure that I am in touch with Marathi. So when I used to come here, when I used to talk my local language, people were really shocked. The bases are clear. Of course, when it comes to Mumbai, the food is something you cannot miss. The vada pav, the pav bhajis, the pani puris, you cannot get that anywhere else. So uh, no matter where you go, Mumbai still calls me for that aspect of food, uh, and I enjoy it. And of course, it's an homely feeling. All of my family is here. My uncles, my aunts are over here. So obviously, that connect of being in Mumbai uh, is special because you are closer to family. It gets difficult. Uh, I used to aspire, going on site, and I have been there, but it gets difficult, to adjust. When you're so used to that social culture that if you get cut out of it, it becomes difficult. I am really social for that matter. I cannot uh, party alone. I cannot do that at all, right? I need friends, I need family, and that's when that triggers me. So when it comes to the social aspect, it's always Mumbai and food as well.
Awesome. So you've actually answered my next question already by talking about food. So I can see how your eyes lit up when you were talking about vada pav and pav bhaji and pani puri. So so you've actually answered my next question, but you know, but then I can always create a question on the fly. Football or cricket?
Football. I played football in my college. I actually have done my engineering from Don Bosco Institute of Technology. It is one of the amazing places if you're a football lover.
Yeah.
So I was in the football team, and we had a lot of fun. Enjoyed being very good topping in the engineering space in football. In fact, so we were known for football. So yeah, it's always football. But yes, I do love cricket. I play cricket. I did admire Sachin Tendulkar, Ganguly, and will always be a diehard fan, even though they are not playing cricket today. They will still inspire me, and especially Dravid. The cool commitment that he has while he plays actually inspires me to use those concepts in my working career. So Rahul Dravid is the man to follow when it comes to uh, keeping the calm and composure. So yeah.
And he does it even now, so which is amazing. With
Yeah,
his job as coach of the
exactly. Yes.
A side and the kids, he's doing such a phenomenal job. And anyways, well, that was awesome. So before I let you go, one final question: if Josley wouldn't have been in the IT space, what else he would be doing?
So if I had all the money, I would be traveling because I'm a vivid traveler. So before the COVID, I traveled around 6 countries in a year, right? And it has totally stopped. So if I was not doing testing, I would probably be a traveler. And I am passionate about graphic designing. I did graphic designing in my college days, and I still do it in some fashion or the other when I work for the community or when I create, do some creatives. For the test tribe, or when I make my small YouTubes uh, videos which I have started recently, or use it while writing, making images in my blogs. So I use that passion. I still continue to have that slight creative edge when it comes to graphic designing. So if not tester, then it would be either a travel guide or a tour guide because I love travel. Or if you ask professionally, it would be a graphic designer because I love painting and drawing. And uh, yeah, that's some hidden things. Maybe few of you may not know about it, but yeah, I love
Well,
those
no,
two
that
aspects.
that that is absolutely awesome. I know at least 2-3 people who have expressed their love for travel in the Tester Speak episodes, and the one name that pops right on top of my head is Aniruddha.
Uh-huh.
He has traveled to I don't know how many countries. Even during the pandemic, he was traveling. I think he went to Iceland or something. So
Oh,
he
wow.
is still doing it because he lives in Sweden, so that's not too far, I believe. But he was still traveling. I saw pictures of him traveling with his wife on those Nordic trains, and I was like, wow, this guy has a lot of courage. Pandemic, and he's still out there. And of course, Sweden, the way they handled pandemic would give you that courage because they never had a lockdown.
It's all about passion, actually.
I know, I know, I know.
Right? I save to travel, actually. I don't have any other interests like buying a new car or having a big house. It's all about travel. So uh, why? Yes, because I like to taste different cuisines. So so it all boils, exploring these places for cuisine, and uh, my love for photography. So yeah, it just comes in. Uh, it's a different ball game altogether when you save for travel. But yeah, that's how crazy people get if you are very inclined to travel. You just have to.
I know a person who works just 3 months in a year, and the remaining 9 months he's traveling. He
Oh,
works for
that's
3 months,
nice.
saves money, and then travels for the rest of the year. So yeah, so there are people like that in the world. So
Right.
not surprised.
I would love to do such a job, but yes, if I had all the money in the world.
Yeah, of course, of course. Well, awesome. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Jocelyn, for that great interaction. I think it was as energetic as one would have expected just by hearing your name, because you are a bundle of energy. And thank you so much for rubbing some of that energy onto us as well. Keep doing whatever you are doing. You are absolutely phenomenal. Um, we are really proud of what you've achieved, what you've been doing. And there is a lot more to talk to you, of course. So like I have said this to a lot of speakers, we might just do a chapter 2 where you get invited again and continue the conversation. So we're thinking if we can make a plan around that and how should we go about it, because you know these things, you know about communities, you
Right.
know thing about organizing events and shows, so you know the drill. So I don't have to explain it to you, but thank you so much. It was
Thank
a
you. Thank
pleasure,
you, Dinesh.
and just fantastic. I mean, have a blast, Jocelyn.
Yeah. I'll steal your pose because I really find this really humbling,
So this
and
is,
it feels nice
you
saying
know
thank
what,
you.
so even during the pandemic, when I had to go to visit my clients, they'd say, "Oh, do you do the fist or do you do this?" I would say, "No, I do this because this is the most COVID-proof
Right.
greeting.
That's exactly.
This is the most COVID-proof greeting." I mean, and the world has realized it. So instead of doing a elbow or a box, I prefer doing this, and people are like, "Oh, okay, cool." All right. Thank you
All
so
right.
much,
Thank you.
Jocelyn.
All the best to Test Chat.
Thank you
And
so much.
yes, I'm there in Test Chat as well. And let's get talking there.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure. See you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.